Okay, it looks like about a minute here. We'll get started. Okay, now I've got 7 p.m. 1900 for those on the 24-hour clock. This is Thursday, the 29th of May, 2025, and we are LDR 300 leadership course for the University of Mount Olive. It's our weekly Zoom session. So far, I don't see anybody joining, so I'm going to go ahead and just drive on and cover what's going to happen here in week two. But first, let me do a quick recap of week number one. You should see my screen. This is the Moodle page demonstrating LDR 300, your leadership course. We've completed week one, and everybody did a very, very decent job. So I want to thank you for your efforts, for your candor, and for your insights, because I always enjoy seeing what you bring. Believe me, in most cases, I'll get more out of you than you get out of me. So keep it up. Some of you still have some challenges getting the textbook or other, and most of us, mostly we've talked about those. So if I've already talked to you about it and we've established your plan forward, then just keep driving on until you're able to catch up. If you are having some issues and we haven't discussed it, then we need to. And so I'm going to ask that you reach out and contact because if I don't know about it, there's not much I can do to help. As you know, University of Mount Olive policy is no late work, no makeup work, no extra credit work. You're expected to do the work and submit on time. And that is what we will do. With that being said, the dean has given us adjunct faculty, your professor, instructor here, some room to maneuver, if you will. We understand that exigencies will happen, that events will conspire against us no matter how well we plan. And so if that is the case, then I can do I have some flexibility. I can do some things to work with you. That's limited, and there is, but that is available. Okay, but we can only do that if we talk about it. What do I mean by exigency? I mean things like an act of God. About a year or so ago, we had a hurricane roll through, um, and that knocked out people's ability to do schoolwork. Obviously, there were first responders, National Guard, and others, power line workers that were students here, had to respond and weren't able to complete their work on time, as you can imagine. Um, power outages can happen, and so these are what we call exigencies. So uh, again, it's limited, but again, it's available. All right. I see we got Ashley joining. So let me go ahead. Ashley, welcome. I'm just getting started. I'm going to do a quick recap of week one and then just um, real briefly week two before I get to any of your questions, if that's okay. Okay, Ashley, I hope you can hear me. I can see that you're in, so I'll go ahead and drive on. All right. So again, this is the Moodle course. We've got announcements. And again, I want you to check that every time you do log into Moodle, if you would please. You'll see I've posted the week two assignment instructions. We'll cover that in just a little bit after I do a week one recap. All right. So week one, we'll scroll down to it, is module one, Foundations Leadership. You'll see in there every week, every module has an overview. covers a brief synopsis, an abstract, if you will, of what that week, that module is about. Each module has module learning objectives, MLOs. These are related or nested under SLOs, student learning objectives. Those are found in your syllabus. And each module has, about 3 to 5. We're a 3 to 5 rule organization, if you will, 3 to 5 items, bullets, if you will. And I've included a to-do list that tells you the chapters to read during that week and then what to accomplish. And most of you did it. It was good. There's a couple of you that didn't do, for example, both exercises 1.3 and 2.2. Some of you didn't make your weekly discussion post. And there's some of you that corrected that, and I appreciate that. If you did not do everything and you haven't responded to my email, then I'll ask that you do so if you can. Okay, each week has PowerPoint slides. These are PowerPoint slides that are developed by the publisher, and they cover your textbook. These don't replace your textbook, but these do, in fact, and I'll pop this open here. And it's a good supplement, if you will, a good, sometimes it's a good idea, I think, for you to go through these before you read the chapter, because it allows you to, in essence, see the forest and not the trees. In other words, gives you an overview. It shows you some of the main points that the chapter is going to cover. And that's pretty good. That gives you an idea of what's in store for you. So it's not a guessing game. It gives you chapter objectives that you certainly want. Well, we got some people joining here, so let me okay. Ginny, I think I've got you in. I'm just doing a recap of week 1. It's good to have you. And I'm covering the chapter 1 of the PowerPoint slides. So it gives you, again, the objectives, definition, excuse me, I can't get that one out. Definition, models, theories, principles of that chapter. So, about 22, 30 slides per chapter. Some more, some less. Maybe not less, but so good. And then, of course, a good recap, something to have after you've read, obviously, to review and make sure that you understood what some of the major principles are. Okay. Let me see how I can get out of this, because I'm not having an issue for some reason. All right. Oh, I see what I've done. Sorry. Okay. Yes, Ashley. Did you have a question? All right. All right. So I'm sharing the screen again. Hopefully you see it. I'll come out of this. All right. Anyway, so week 1, your questions were, what in your view is the difference between terms management and leadership? Provided you a response and a slide. We understand that they are not necessarily interchangeable, but they are certainly related. Many of the principles of management are the same for leadership. But for our purposes and for this course, management is more on the day-to-day runnings, providing consistency within the organization. Leadership, talking about more vision and being a change agent and driving that organization, or pushing that organization, or guiding that organization, or leading that organization through that vision. We see that if an organization has good management and good leadership, they will endure. We see an organization has good management but poor leadership, they will eventually die as an organization. They are not heading in the right direction. Think, if you will, Blockbuster. Blockbuster had good management and reliably did the things consistently, but they didn't catch the vision of no more running to a brick and mortar type of shop to rent a tape movie when you had online streaming and ability to download a video on the computer. Conversely, if we have poor management and good leadership, then the organization will consistently not do the things right. Think of a visionary leader, say a solid football coach, but if he doesn't have the people that are making that organization run on a day-to-day basis, when things are not being locked on, when trips are not being well planned, when resources are being squandered, again, that organization will probably fail. All right. Why is leadership considered both an art and science? This gets back to your chapter 1. We're talking about leadership as both. Okay. The analogy we used was that of a painter. We know that a painter executes art on the canvas using their inspiration and their talents. But you could also, teach art, mechanics, brush strokes, ways of mixing paint, use of canvas and materials on that canvas. So in this aspect, we're talking about the same. Leadership requiring the ability to navigate that situation with the tools that you have learned. In other words, the science part of it. The science part being the models, the principles, the definitions, the talents, the tools, if you will, that you put in your leadership toolkit. And then we talk about leadership as a contingency leadership, depending on the situation. In other words, what may work in one circumstance may not be the right tool for another. I may look at a situation different than you and apply a different leadership technique. Doesn't mean one is right and the other is wrong necessarily, but just shows how it is on art and science. Again, we're all really good. I think most of you did it very well. You got your initial posts in by Friday night. And then you also commented on at least 2 of your fellow learners as a minimum, and you answered the questions. I really appreciate seeing the insight and ask that you continue. All right. Leadership practice, know yourself summary report was 1.3 and 2.2. I won't go into these. You saw the exercises. You did the exercises. Most of you, I'm very confident, understood what the exercises were trying to drive at. Many of you made the comment whether you agreed or disagreed with the findings and why. That was superb. I like that. A couple of you did what I asked you not to do. You showed your responses to each and every question in the exercise. I don't need to see your work. I trust you on that. What I do want to see is you summarize the exercise, what the exercise was designed to do, what your result was overall, and what that means to you, both now and in the future, both in leading others and for you personally. So again, overall, a great job. I provided feedback on that as well. Mostly, again, in the not in the abstract, but in an overview sense of what I saw were trends. And I ask that you continue. Again, there is no right answer on what you got for 1.3 or right answer on 2.2. That's up to you. So I don't grade you on the right answer, but I do grade on how well you summarize the results, how those results apply or amplify the information you got in the text, and how well you articulated the ability to enhance your ability to lead others and to create value. And again, in your career or in your organization or even in your own family, it's how you view it. And that's a challenge. I get it. But overall, again, a great job. Okay, week one quiz. Most of you took it, some did not. Again, I opened the quiz on Friday, so tomorrow, week two quiz questions will post about noon. Um, the quizzes close at 23:59, a minute before midnight on Tuesday, the 27th of May, is week one. Week two will close obviously Tuesday of next week. You have 1 hour to do it. I tell you that you can use your text, you can use the exercises, the PowerPoint presentations, the required reading assignments. I ask that you not collaborate with other students, though, in taking the quiz. It's your work. And it looked like most everybody was able to do it without any major issues, none that I'm aware of. So I commend you for that and just keep pushing. If you do wind up having an issue, certainly let me know. And we'll take it from there. Okay. So week two coming up on us, already started, obviously. And in the weekly instructions, I cover what's due. In fact, well, no, I won't even worry about that. Let's just go here. Module overview, leadership and context. You've got 3 chapters to read this week, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, since we're a 6-week course, timeline's been compressed a little bit. So, as the old joke goes, it's only a lot of reading if you do it. Obviously, I'm going to ask that you do the reading. And you're going to get into major models of leadership style and behavior and within the context of situations. We're going to want you to pick up on leadership effectiveness that is based on situational factors and the characteristics of the individuals involved, obviously. So a strong emphasis is on your awareness, your self-awareness, your perception. And we're going to get into a concept called emotional intelligence, your ability to read others. If I had my way, every leadership course would contain a heavy dose of psychology. Good magazine to get, Psychology Today. Gives you insights on what the current studies are and models of psychology and being able to understand how people think and act. And it's those aspects is what goes into emotional intelligence. It just means knowing your people. In other words, I'm a retired Marine, so I go by or have gone by for years the leadership traits that the Marine Corps taught me, and one of those was know yourself and know your people. It's hard to be a leader without knowing yourself, certainly, and if you don't know your people, then you're not going to be effective. Okay, since there's 3 chapters, you've got 6 learning objectives, a couple for each chapter. Basically, is how it rolls out. Again, this gives you some of the major principles we want you keying in on. Again, the 3 chapters, and this time, of course, you've got 3 know yourself leadership practice exercises. I want you to do 3-3, 4-4, and 5-3. All 3 of them, please. Here are your PowerPoint slides and discussion forum. 2 questions. First is, what, in your view, is meant by the term contingency as it relates to our study leadership essentials? I gave you a little bit of a hint earlier in my comments today. Just what we're after, contingency, contingent on the situation. That's kind of the foot stomper on how you can craft your answer. Discussion 2, we get focus in on chapter 4, and I want you to lay out what the big 5 personality dimensions are. I'm going to ask that you articulate the 5 the dimensions, just list them. You don't have to teach the class. And then inform us of which is your most prominent dimension. Okay, you're going to have to do an additional leadership practice exercise. This would be 4.1 in order to know what your most prominent dimension is. If you have more than one, that's fine. Just go ahead and so state. And then once you list that out, give us a key leadership aspect of that dimension that Daft gives you in his text. Okay, so for example, if your leadership prominent dimension is emotional stability, then you would say, hey, the text tells me a leader is emotionally stable, handles stress well, is able to handle criticism, generally doesn't make mistakes or failures, and then lay out how that applies to you. And again, how that helps you be a leader. Okay, again, a lot of this is self-awareness, and I encourage you to take the time, but don't lose sight on how these aspects will help you in your leadership journey. All right, again, for the discussion thread, I'm going to ask that you make your initial post by Friday, 23:59, of course, and then respond a minimum of 2 others by Sunday, 23:59. No changes there. I see that about 3 or 4 of you have already submitted your discussion form. Great, good on you. Thank you for being early. And again, I look at those on usually Friday night or Saturday morning. And then I'll turn right around and wind up posting your forum discussion grades, usually on Monday after I've keyed in on who's responded. All right, again, leadership practice, know yourself summary report for week 2. Again, 3 exercises, please. 3, 4, 4, 5, 3. I talked about how most of you know what I'm looking for, and I could see how you write. So we're finding each other pretty good. Please answer all 3 in depth, if you will. Certainly make the points, if you will. All right. Again, all these leadership examples or exercises, excuse me, will help you inform you for your week 6 leadership effectiveness paper. Again, we'll talk the paper out again at some point, probably maybe next week in the Zoom session. Still a little early for me to talk that out. You could go in and take a look if you wish. For the requirement, it's posted in Moodle, but I'm not going to belabor the point here. All right, week 2 quiz. So again, you'll find the quizzes about the same. Again, questions will be released probably about, again, noon on Friday. The quiz 2 questions are derived from your text readings, chapters 3 through 5. I will not ask any questions from chapter 1 and 2 on this quiz. I don't do that in the future quizzes. Okay, so the quizzes focus on the readings and material covered that week. Again, you've got 1 attempt, about an hour. You'll find the mix to be true, false, and best answer. I don't say multiple choice or multiple guess. I want you to find the best answer, if you will. And I usually am straight up on my questions. I don't like trick questions. I try not to trick you. Don't read too much into the questions. Just take them for base value, what they're asking. And just so you know on how I approach quiz gradings, I'll go in and I'll take a look at how the class did overall on the quiz. If I see more than 3/4 of you miss a particular question, I will go and review that question because obviously there was a problem with it. And then we'll take it from there. Okay. But so far, I don't think anybody had any issues with the questions from last week. So hopefully that one went pretty smooth. And hopefully this one will as well. Okay. So again, I rambled on quite a bit. I'm going to open it up there to Ashley or Ginny if either of you have anything that you want to bring up, any questions or comments or concerns.
Good evening, this is Ashley. I do have one quick question about the leadership practice.
Yes.
So when we're writing it out, do you want it as like if there's 3 assignments like there is for this week, is it okay to save it in the same file? Or do you want separate files for each assignment?
Great question. Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate you asking this one. Your question was, did I want a separate file for each exercise? No. I mean, having it in one file is perfect. Word document that you upload to Moodle makes it easy all the way around. So if you can, I would like you to separate out the exercises. In other words, don't try to combine a summary of all 3 into one paragraph. So I could see that you did, in fact, do the exercises. So in that one file, if you have, say, for example, 3 separate pages covering each of the three exercises, that would be perfect. I'm not too concerned about format in per se, but I will ask that you don't do a PDF screenshot of the exercise. I don't need to see the exercise again. I'm more interested in the summary of same. Uh, I think a couple of you saved the file as a PDF file and then uploaded Moodle. Um, it was a Word document that you saved, and that's okay. I no issues there. I do kind of want you to follow generally APA guidelines on format. Um, I'm going to ask that you do it in Times New Roman, um, 12 pitch, if you will. Uh, consider use of paragraph headers to organize your response. In other words, a paragraph for summary, a paragraph for uh, aspects or how it relates to your text principles, and paragraph for uh, how this helps you as a leader and how it helps you create value. In other words, some people would use the actual questions in the format that I ask you as your paragraph headers. I don't grade on APA format for these, but I will do that for your paper. So, getting some practice in now, I think helps you in the long run with your paper. Did I generally answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Great question, and you did a good job. I liked your work, and I liked your insights on your summary.
Thank you.
And I encourage you to keep it going. Um, if and again, as I tell people, tell my students, your first form of feedback is your grade. I think that's ultimately what we're after. But I also provide comments where I see them and need them. If uh, if you get an A, a high A on your grade, you may not see much comment because there's not much for me to comment on. In other words, you're doing fine. Uh, that's not to say you won't. And in some cases, if something jumps out at me, I certainly will bring it up. But otherwise, you're tracking. And so it's not because I don't love you, not because I don't want to give you feedback. It's just you're doing so well. I just want you to continue. Does that sound fair? I think
Yes,
it
sir.
sounds fair.
Thank you.
Okay,
This is
great.
this is Ginny. I was just going to basically touch on what Ashley was asking, just to make sure that's what you wanted in one PDF. Because if you'll see in mine, you were so gracious in your comments um, and then making sure with me personally that each question is answered. Because for me, example, you can use me as an example. When I went in to take those quizzes, um, I went in and, did the true, false, or I answered each one individually and I put it in the paper and then I tallied the total up and then I wrote about it. So I put a little bit more in there that I should have. And you corrected me for that. So now I know what to do in the future.
Jenny, thank you for bringing that up. I wasn't going to dime you out.
It's okay. It
And
is okay.
it wasn't. I'm sorry if it came across, and I certainly now see that it did. Uh, wasn't a correction. I guess. I guess what I it is an instructor frustration because there's about 30 of you, so it's sometimes a lot to go through. Not hard. That's my problem, not anybody else's. But I think it was more of a concern of not wanting to waste your time. In other words, do your exercises however you see fit. Don't feel a need to, type out. I certainly don't expect you to type out each and every question and then provide the response if that makes sense. Um, and again, I'm more interested in the summary. So what I've noticed over the years is whenever I have a student that lays out every question and their response. Typically, they tell me what the result is, but then they don't summarize the exercise. In other words, They've just kind of answered the questions. In other words, what I euphemistically call a scavenger hunt. Yeah, you got to the answer, and I see that you did, but give me the so what. Tell me what this means to you. We made you do the exercise. Just what is that exercise, and what was it after? And that's why I also say, bring in some of your text so you can, illuminate it a little bit, almost as if I am asking you to teach a fellow student. Um, you would be amazed at how many comments I get from your fellow students of how much they appreciate your posts and each other's posts and what you bring in and the insights. Yeah, because I get away. I ask that you get away from just a simple "Hey, I liked your comment" as a response, and more kind of an in-depth uh, comment, um, insight, because students respond to that, and I think we all learn more from each other when we're more engaging and have that ability. In other words, it almost strikes back to a Socratic teaching method. The Socratic teaching method was obviously based on the Greek philosopher Socrates. Back in the ancient days, he would assemble his students, and they would all review a certain aspect or a certain philosophic argument or a certain piece of information. They would all become familiar with it, and then they would sit and have a class, and then they would talk it out. So, in other words, instead of Socrates, lecturing the students and presenting them in a one-way venue, death by PowerPoint, we call it today. Each and everybody had a discussion, and Socrates actually allowed the students to talk more than he did, which is a great concept, one I should learn and take to heart more. But in this regard, we essentially teach each other. And so, yes, Jenny, even though you did lay out the questions, you did summarize, and you did some great aspects and insights on what it meant. You answered the so what. So I encourage you to keep charging. I apologize for the correction, and but I do ask don't try to bother regurgitating each of the details of that exercise. Just go ahead and summarize. Keep your work.
No, yes, sir, and no need to apologize. That you're absolutely correct, and it actually saves me more time if I don't go out and lay out each individual one. I need to do exactly what you told me to. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, and I encourage you keep charging. You're doing fine. Well, good. Some great questions. I appreciate that, and I certainly am open to criticisms and comments if something isn't tracking or I'm not explaining it right, or if I'm presuming too much. Certainly call me out on it. I would rather hear it now than after the course is over, and because that gives me time to fix it. And I think we're all appreciative of feedback in that regard. And I'm presuming everybody's doing fine. In other words, Jenny, you got back home safe.
Yep, I'm back home safe and I'm doing fine. And it's actually nice to do a Zoom call this because it breaks up from if you're taking, 10 other classes at a time or whatever you're taking. It's very rare in a bachelor's degree program that they actually do Zoom calls. So that I've experienced so far. So I like that this class has that interaction with the instructor instead of it just being where you have the coffee house chat and you do a discussion. You can talk one-on-one like this via Zoom. To me, it's so much better, the interaction.
Great, thank you. That's a great point. I have to admit, I do enjoy teaching more in a seated traditional, where I don't have to say write the same thing to 30 different students. I can just say it one time, if you will. But you're right; it's that interaction, and I'm glad and I appreciate the positive feedback. Um, we have to be careful with an online course because it's designed around student flexibility. So when we have hard and fast dates and times, that actually gets us instructors a little bit in trouble. I get around it in this sense by saying this is obviously not mandatory. You're certainly welcome to attend or not as you see fit. But I kind of treat it as having, for example, office hours. If we were on a traditional campus and you wanted to stop by the office to talk to the instructor, so good. All right. Well, so about 7:35 again. I typically get cut off at about the 7 minute or 40-minute mark. So I'm going to start winding this down, unless either of you have anything else you want to bring up.
I'm great. Thank you, though. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Well, you're great as well. Thank you, Jenny. Keep it up. Keep
Thanks.
charging.
Nothing here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashley. You keep doing the same. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Have a good night.